Unit 7, Lesson 58. And now we are going to read such a nice text about the future, especially the future of transportation. Do you think transportation is a big problem in cities nowadays? Does it bother you when you have to get back home after working? And then do you spend long hours in the traffic, commuting home? Is it a problem for you? We are going to read a text, and here there's a guy who is a futurist. So it's a person who studies the future so we can make better decisions now in the present. Do you think it's possible not to predict the future, but to analyze the future, to forecast the future so we can make better decisions now? Let's see what this guy has to say. And another question is, do you believe in time travel or time travel machine? No? Do you believe that it's possible to travel, to go to future, to go to the past, like the movie Back to the Future? Do you remember? There was a car, DeLorean, and in this car, Marty McFly could travel time. Do you think it's possible to travel time? Crazy, huh? Yeah. I'd like you to press pause now and read this text, okay? This page and the next page. Okay? You can press pause now, read the text, and after we are going to read it together. Beautiful. Now let's do it together. And I'd like to start from this quotation from Stephen Hawking. You know him, right? If time travel is possible, where are the tourists from the future? Good questions, huh? Good question. Do you think there are tourists from the future among us? No? In the streets, in our work? Do you think we have people from the future? Yes, let's read it together and check the new words and expand our vocabulary in English. Could the futuristic traveling tube become a reality? First paragraph. Gary Aaron sits in a small cafe and asks his favorite macchiato. Café is a place, right? Café, a place to drink coffee. Okay, so café is a place, coffee is the drink. And he asks his favorite macchiato. Macchiato is a type of coffee and milk, okay? It's an Italian word, macchiato, okay? In front of him, sheets of paper with diagrams litter the table. Litter, like spread all over the table, okay? So litter, spread all over the table. He rapidly designs, he draws, or he designs, okay? He designs trains, cars, and highways as he explains his ideas. Gary Aaron has one passion: transportation. The science of how to move people from place to place fascinates him. He spends his days studying the relationships between cars, subways, and trains. But he's most excited about imagining the way these relationships will change in the next 20 years. Do you think that these relationships will change in the next 20 years? Do you think that transportation will be totally different in 20 years' time, in 10 years' time? What do you think? Aaron is a futurist. Futurists are scientists who analyze the way the world is today and use that information to make predictions about what the world will be like in the future. In this way, they are the opposite of historians, who try to better understand the present through studying the past. Futurists hope that by making scientific predictions about the future, we can make better decisions today. Do you agree with this sentence? that by making scientific predictions about the future, we can make better decisions today. Interesting, yeah? I've never thought about it. Next, some futurists study the environment, some study human society. Aaron focuses on the study of transportation. And be careful with the pronunciation of this word here. Focuses. Like the present, focus, focus, focuses. He focuses. In the past, he focused. He focused, okay? To focus, he focuses, he focused, right? So Aaron focuses on the study of transportation. He earned his graduate degree in future studies from the University of Houston. Nice verb, huh? In Portuguese you say, we did my graduation. No. He earned his graduate degree. Okay, nice. Huh? He earned his graduate degree in future studies from the University of Houston. Living in Houston for those 2 years changed the way he viewed transportation in the United States. Many public transportation advocates dislike Houston. Advocates is not lawyers, okay? Lawyers, advogado. Advocates, defensores, okay? So many public transportation advocates dislike, they don't like, so they don't like Houston. They argue the city is too sprawling, too extensive, okay? Too big. So sprawling, extensive, big, huge, large, gigantic. It can take more than 3 hours to drive from one side of the city to the other during rush hour, and that there aren't enough buses and subways. However, Houston was a source of inspiration for Aaron. Houston is a really interesting place, and their transportation is a fascinating story. It's worth watching. It's worth watching. Huh? It's worth, vale a pena. It's worth, vale a pena. When you think about it, what is the US like? It's more like Houston. So you need to understand how Houston approaches things to understand the country as a whole. New York City is the exception, said Aaron in an interview with the New York Times. Okay. Aaron points out that people in New York, Aaron points out, nice phrasal verb for us to use. To point out, apontar, huh? He points out. So Aaron points out that people in New York City own fewer cars and walk much more than anywhere else in the United States. It's a unique environment, says Aaron. Very different from the rest of the country. Okay? Very unique, very special. Okay? However, Aaron believes American cities will become more similar to New York in several ways over the next 20 years. Interesting. He sees a trend toward fewer cars in the future. He explains cities have a cost of car ownership that is a challenge. All these vehicles cost the city in services and having to repair roads and all of the other things. Cars also take up a lot of space. Houston, for example, has 30 parking spaces for every resident. That's 64.8 million parking spaces in only one city. Wow, so parking spaces, vagas. Parking spaces, vagas para carros. Crazy, huh? So do you think that in the future there will be fewer cars, like he predicts? I don't know. The number of cars only increases, especially now with the EVs, electric vehicles. Let's see. Again, Aaron points out that having so many parking spaces is inefficient. Much of the time, the parking spaces sit empty. They sit empty, they are empty. At high use times, for example, Saturday afternoon, when everyone is running errands, Okay, to run errand means to go out to do something or to buy something, okay? When everybody's running errands, every parking space at a shopping center is full. But at 3 a.m. on a Monday, no one is at the shopping center, obviously. What is the solution? I think cities are going to start to legislate cars in very new ways, says Aaron. He explains that cities will make new laws to limit the number of cars people can have within city limits. Okay, beautiful. Instead, people will use taxis, subways, and buses. New technology like smartphones can make these forms of public transportation even better. Fascinating. What do you think about it? Fewer cars, better public transportation system? Interesting. Next paragraph. Buses have the same problem of inefficiency as parking spaces, explains Aaron. Sometimes they're full, and sometimes they're empty. But imagine if everyone had a smartphone and used them to signal when they wanted to ride the bus. Buses could change their route depending on who wanted to ride. To what extent do you agree with that? Like buses don't have one specific route, so they could change to pick up new passengers. Challenging, huh? How soon would these changes come? Aaron admits that it will take several years. Cities can be slow to change. Also, new systems of transportation can be expensive. But it's coming, he says. The trend of the empowered city will be here soon. Let's see. Next paragraph. The other trend that excites Aaron is electric cars. We need to reduce the amount of fuel we consume, says Aaron. Everyone agrees on this. The question is how to do it. Aaron especially believes in the future of EVs, electric vehicles, okay? That have sensors to understand the world around them. If we have cars that can communicate with one another, they can adjust speed limits to eliminate traffic jams, he says. Rush hour in Houston would suddenly be much less painful. Interesting. Imagine, no? Cars communicating on the speed limits, on the speeds that they drive, and then no traffic jams. That would be fantastic. Next. One challenge related to the production of EVs is that it is hard to cheaply produce batteries that are strong enough for these cars. This is partially because cars are so heavy. But Aaron argues you could also make cars out of strong plastic composites. The cars would then be much lighter and much cheaper to make. This could revolutionize the highways, he says. When could electric smart cars become the norm? Aaron argues as soon as 2030. It's like in 6 years' time. It's around the corner. In the last paragraph, as a futurist, Aaron shares his predictions with other scholars. Estudiosos. At conferences across the country. He also provides advice to companies that want to know what the future will be like so that they can make better strategies. Aaron remains optimistic about the future. There are so many exciting developments, he says. In 30 years, we will live a very different world. About that, I couldn't agree more with you. Huh? I think in 30 years' time, the world will be completely different. What do you think? Hmm? Would you like to live this moment, this era of fewer cars, more EVs, less traffic jam? That would be cool, huh? Yeah, so now I'd like you to check the rest of the words that you might not know. And after that, I'd like you to answer the questions about this text, okay? And in the next lesson, we are going to correct them. So, I'll see you in a minute.